Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles, and today we're joining Cockster in a Tier 9 battle on the Malinovka map. And yes, do not adjust your monitors, he is in a Type 59. This is still one of the most sought after tanks in World of Tanks. Although not because it's that good. I mean, it certainly was when it was introduced, but it was introduced a really long time ago. In fact, you probably won't believe how long ago this tank was introduced. Let me just tell you when it was removed from the in-game store. 2012. Yeah. 8 years ago. It was a very good Tier 8 medium tank 8 years ago, but the game's moved on a lot in the space of 8 years. The stats are definitely not bad though. It's got better than average mobility, good top speed, good acceleration. The turret is very tough. The upper glacis is 100mm thick and sloped back at 60 degrees, so it can beat guns that have 175mm of armor-piercing penetration. The gun is alright. It's basically the same 100mm gun that you get on the T-34-2. The DPM is kind of low. The penetration with standard ammunition isn't fantastic. I mean, the gun's okay. If you don't have one of these tanks, and if you don't, there's very little chance that you're actually going to get one. But if you don't have one and you want to know what they're like to play, just get the WZ-120, because stock, it's basically a Type 59. With the advantage that you can upgrade the WZ-120. Although you'll need to upgrade the WZ-120 because that has to fight Tier 10s. Something that the Type 59 never had to do because it had protected matchmaking. And it's that protected matchmaking that's partially responsible for the fearsome reputation that the Type 59 still has today, more than 8 years after it was removed from the in-game shop. Because, well, the stats were pretty good back then, they're nothing special now. But it wasn't the stats that made the tank so universally feared and hated. It was the fact that everybody had one, and with the limited matchmaking spread, Tier 8 battles were packed full of Type 59s. And the Type 59 sort of naturally tended to work together. It was a really remarkable phenomenon. The Type 59 Wolfpack. Nobody had to say anything. The Type 59s all just stuck together. Can you imagine what it's like to be in a Tier 8 or 9 heavy tank or tank destroyer, or, God forbid, a Tier 7 heavy tank or tank destroyer, and 6 of these things are screaming towards you at 50 kilometers per hour? At best, you're going to get one shot off before you're dead. And that was basically what Tier 8 battles were like 9 years ago when this thing was in its heyday. It was the sheer number of these things in any given Tier 8 or 9 battle, and the fact that they all stuck together and worked together, that made the Type 59 Wolfpack so universally feared and hated. But we're 8 years on now. You hardly ever see these things, so the Type 59 Wolfpack is a thing of forgotten myth and legend. And it's no longer an especially good tank. It's basically a stock WZ-120. Which isn't bad for a Tier 8 premium tank, because don't forget the WZ-120 is a Tier 9 medium tank, but a stock Tier 9 medium tank. All of which is a kind of long-winded way of saying that while Cockster is definitely in a highly coveted and sought-after tank, it's definitely not a particularly special tank, and I can't help but feel, given the reputation of this thing, that anybody who gets one today is more than likely to be, well, a little underwhelmed and not really understand what all the fuss was about. Because it's not 2012 anymore, the game's moved on, and the tank hasn't. It's still a perfectly good Tier 8 medium, particularly if you're fighting Tier 7s, although this is a Tier 9 battle and there aren't too many Tier 7s around. But if you're expecting the legendary reputation of the Type 59 to carry you to victory, get used to living with disappointment. In fact, you're more than likely to receive more than your fair share of fire in this thing, because it is an extremely rare tank and everybody likes shooting at things that they haven't seen before. 4 minutes into the battle, Cockster's down to 234 health, 4 of his teammates are dead, and his team have only managed to kill 2 enemy tanks. He is very wisely getting the hell out of here while he still has a tank that's capable of moving and fighting. It's fair to say that the enemy have taken the hill. In fact, they've taken the field at the other end of the map from the hill as well, and they have tanks within spitting distance of Cockster's cap circle, although they've got one less now. Cockster is now down 6 teammates, And with that kill on the KV-13, it may look to the casual observer as if Coxter's team have managed to pull another 2 kills back. There are a further 2 enemy tanks missing, but only one of them, the KV-13, was killed by enemy fire. The other, the EBR, managed to fall into the lake and drown himself. The enemy team have the hill. But this has always been the problem with the hill on Malinovka, because it's not a victory objective. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have. Possession of the high ground is never a bad thing, but after taking the hill you have to leverage that into an actual advantage, and that means getting off the hill. And there's an awful lot of open ground between the top of the hill and the nearest available piece of cover. Oh, spotted and flanked by an SU-100M1. That guy must die. Nice. Coxter, very conscious of the fact that he's going to be temporarily visible to the enemy tanks on the hill, making sure that there's plenty of ridgeline between him and any shells coming his way. Back up, taking advantage of cover once again, and continuing the farm damage on the enemy tanks that are trying to make it from the hill into the safety of the forest over there, and it doesn't look like any of them made it. And that right there has always been the problem with taking the hill on Malinovka. Taking the hill by itself doesn't guarantee success. It's the number of enemy tanks that you kill and the number of friendly tanks that survive while you do it. You can then use that hit point and numerical advantage to get off the hill into the forest over to the left there without losing all of your health in the process, and that is what tends to win games, not the simple fact of taking the hill alone. Coxter's been spotted again he falls back, keeping the ground between him and the tanks on top of the hill, so he's only fighting tanks from one direction at a time. Did score a lucky hit against the Scorpion G there, but look where the Scorpion G is going. He's moving from a position on the flank where he not only had shots but was able to spot the tanks down here that are keeping tanks like the Object 430 up there pinned down. And he's moving from that position to join the tanks that are pinned down behind the old church at the foot of the hill. So Coxter did have a big problem there with an extremely powerful tank destroyer on his flank, spotting him and potentially shooting at him. But all he had to do was shoot at the problem a couple of times, and even though he didn't kill it, the problem solved itself. The Scorpion G moved from a position where it was a significant threat to join all of its teammates pinned down at the foot of the hill. Slightly more pressing problem now in the shape of this T-44, who's probably not that much of a direct issue because, well, Coxter's turret is good enough probably to take a hit from the T-44, and he was very lucky to kill the T-44 in return, but they've just lost the EBR Hotchkiss driving across the open ground there in front of all these enemy tanks, and oh shit, here they come. Beautiful shot on the Scorpion G there, blew his tracks off, causing him to swerve and lose his aim, and wow, that really just happened. What's up with the Scorpion G? Do you think he's having problems with his trackpad or something? Now you'd think that the Object 430 would be an easy kill. Well, maybe if Coxter could hit him. But Coxter's gone through all of his gold ammo, so now he only has 185mm of penetration, and well, that is an Object 430. And oh, here comes the Object 252U, and wow. What is going on with these premium tank drivers today? Shot comes in across the map from the T-34-100 at the perfect moment, immobilising the object there, and Coxter ensures that every subsequent shot does the same thing, while also inflicting damage. Just as Coxter finishes him off, the friendly artillery doesn't suicide and instead successfully defends himself against the Object 430, which just leaves that parting shot there from the enemy 212A, leaving Coxter on the grand total of 6 health. Extremely lucky to survive, and I'm surprised artillery didn't shoot at him earlier. He had been spotted for quite a while and he didn't have a huge amount of space to manoeuvre, and he was on less than 300 health there. Generally, if you're playing artillery and you see a target that remains spotted for a good long time and it's not moving around a lot and it's on very low health, it's kind of om nom 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 time. So Coxter was extremely lucky to survive. But now he's in a race with the EBR-90, who's also on 4 kills and has also had an extremely good game to see who can find and kill that guy first. And they've both scored hits, but it looks like the EBR made the schoolboy error of loading high explosive to finish off artillery, and of course he barely did any damage at all. And so, despite his terrible DPM, Coxter reloads next, and he's the one who gets the kill. The very first World of Tanks replay that I ever uploaded to YouTube was in the Type 59. So it's nice to feature the thing again, but it's definitely not the tank that it used to be all those years ago. Well, that's not true. Actually, it is exactly the tank that it used to be all of those years ago, but it's not the game that it used to be all of those years ago, so it in no way lives up to its fearsome reputation. And it is exceptionally good at printing money with extremely low repair and ammunition resupply costs. Coxter burned through, I think, 18 rounds of gold ammunition in this match. But even if he hadn't had the personal reserves boost active, he still wouldn't have lost money. That much, at least, is one thing that's still just as true today with the Type 59 as it was 8 years ago. It is exceptionally good at printing credits. Sadly, or perhaps depending on your perspective, luckily, this is as close as most of you are ever going to come to seeing a Type 59. The bad old days of the Type 59 Wolfpack plague in Tier 8 matchmaking are buried long in the past, where they belong. Coxter, thank you for sending that one in. Congratulations on the result. Everyone else, I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, stay safe, take care, and I'll catch you next time.